A Brief History of Time. Stephen Hawking. Chapter 11. Conclusion. We find ourselves in bewildering world. We want to make sense of what we see around us and to ask, what is the nature of the universe? What is our place in it? And where did it and we come from? Why is it the way it is? To try to answer these questions, we adopt some word picture, just as an infinite tower of tortoises supporting the flat earth is such a picture. So is the theory of superstrings. Both are theories of the universe, though the latter is much more mathematical and precise than the former. Both theories lack observational evidence. No one has ever seen a giant tortoise with the earth on its back, but then no one has seen a superstring either. However, the tortoise theory fails to be a good scientific theory because it predicts that pupils should be able to fall off the edge of the world. This has not been found to agree with experience, unless that turns out to be the explanation for the pupils who are supposed to have disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle. The earliest theoretical attempts to describe and explain the universe involved the idea that events and natural phenomena were controlled by spirits with human emotions who acted in a very human-like and unpredictable manner. These spirits inhabited natural objects like rivers and mountains, including celestial bodies like the sun and moon. They had to be placated and their favors sought in order to ensure the fertility of the soil and the rotation of the seasons. Gradually, however, it must have been noticed that there were certain regularities. The sun always rose in the east and set in the west, whether or not a sacrifice had been made to the sun god. Further, the sun, the moon, and the planets followed precise paths across the sky that could be predicted in advance with considerable accuracy. The sun and the moon might still be gods, but they were gods who obeyed strict laws, apparently without any exceptions. If one discounts stories like that of the sun stopping for Joshua, at first these irregularities and laws were obvious only in astronomy and a few other situations. However, as civilization developed, and particularly in the last 300 years, more and more regularities and laws were discovered. The success of these laws led Laplace at the beginning of the 19th century to postulate scientific determinism. That is, he suggested that there would be a set of laws that would determine the evolution of the universe precisely, given its configuration at one time. Laplace's determinism was incomplete in two ways. It did not say how the laws should be chosen, and it did not specify the initial configuration of the universe. They were left to God. These were left to God. God would choose how the universe began and what laws it obeyed, but he would not intervene in the universe once it had started. In effect, God was confined to the areas that 19th century science did not understand. We now know that Laplace's hope of determinism cannot be realized, at least in the terms he had in mind. The uncertainty principles of quantum mechanics implies that certain pairs of quantities, such as the position and velocity of a particle, cannot both be predicted with complete accuracy. Quantum mechanics deals with this situation via a class of quantum theories in which particles don't have well-defined positions and velocities, but are represented by a wave. These quantum theories are deterministic in the sense that they give laws for the evolution of the wave with time. Thus, if one knows the wave at one time, one can calculate it at any other time. The unpredictable random element comes in only when we try to interpret the wave in terms of the positions and velocities of particles. But maybe that is our mistake. Maybe there are no particle positions and velocities, but only waves. It is just that we try to fit the waves to our preconceived ideas of positions and velocities. The resulting mismatch is the cause of the apparent unpredictability. In fact, we have redefined the task of science to be the discovery of laws that will enable us to predict events up to the limits set by the uncertainty principle. The question remains, however, how or why were the laws and initial state of the universe chosen? In this book, I have given special prominence to the laws that govern gravity, because it is gravity that shapes the large scale structure of the universe. Even though it is the weakest of the four categories of forces, the laws of gravity were incompatible with the view held until quite recently that the universe is unchanging in time. The fact that gravity is always attractive to the general theory of relativity, there must have been a state of infinite density in the past, the Big Bang, which would have been an effective beginning of time. Similarly, if the whole universe recollapsed, there must be another state of infinite density in the future, the Big Crunch, which would be an end of time. Even if the whole universe did not recollapse, there would be singularities in any localized regions that collapsed to form black holes. These singularities would be an end of time for anyone who fell into the black hole at the Big Bang and other singularities. All the laws would have broken down, so God would still have had complete freedom to choose what happened and how the universe began. When we combine quantum mechanics with general relativity, there seems to be a new possibility that did not arise before, that space and time together might form a finite four-dimensional space without singularities or boundaries, like the surface of the Earth, but with more dimensions. It seems that this idea could explain many of the observed features of the universe, such as its large homogeneity, like galaxies, stars, and even human beings. It could even account for the arrow of time that we observe. But if the universe is completely self contained, with no singularities or boundaries, and completely described by a unified theory that has profound implications for the role of God as creator. Einstein once asked the question, how much choice did God have in constructing the universe? If the no boundary proposal is correct, he had no freedom at all to choose initial condition. He would, of course, still have